Welcome to Ethics and Developmental Disabilities. Lecture 4, Acts and Legislation. The Mental Incompetency Act was enacted to protect the property of those deemed unable to do so. A definition of mental incompetency is suffering from a condition, arrest, or incomplete development of the mind, whether from birth, disease, or injury. A person with a developmental disability clearly falls within this definition. When one is considered mentally incompetent, an application is made to the courts to declare a person incompetent so another can make legal decisions regarding property, care, and supervision. The Ontario criteria for involuntary admission outlines the right to question involuntary detention, retain counsel, and apply for a review. That a person admitted is at risk of serious bodily harm to person, serious bodily harm to another, or imminent serious impairment of self. While developmental disability and legal incompetence are not the same, those who have a developmental disability are at risk of having their legal competency questioned. Consider the following video entitled Landon's Story and see if your thoughts on incompetency and developmental disabilities change.
It's a whole different world that other people don't have to imagine because they don't live in our shoes. It's not an easy task. You don't wake up in the morning and think you'll ever have a special needs child. Landon as a baby was a very beautiful child. I think pretty well in the newborn period we knew something was wrong with Landon. Just holding his head up for not meeting his milestones. We had diagnoses like a heart murmur. Then that led to his open heart surgery. From there, it was developmental delay that was global, behavior issues. Then as he got older, he developed the seizures. I just always told him he could do whatever he wanted to do and we would just support him. When you send your child off to school the first time, you're putting your child in somebody else's hands. But with Landon, we had a little bit more concern because we knew he had some issues and problems.
I remember that I went to go down to the bus stop with my mother. It was a special needs bus, and I didn't want to get on this small bus. I wanted to be like everyone else, get on a normal bus.
Landon struggled with schoolwork, holding his pencil and being able to do penmanship. He just threw himself on the floor, come in the way of tantrums. People couldn't understand that, thinking that that required discipline rather than recognizing it as part of his disabilities and disorders. He liked some of his teachers. He didn't have a lot of friends, no. It always is a struggle for parents and for a mom to watch a child work so hard to have to obtain anything.
They were requested by my mother to have a full-time aide in school and out on the playground, which I really didn't want because it would make me feel even more of an outcast and harder for me to make friends. My whole life I felt like an outcast, and
I wasn't really having that much of a relationship with my friends at school, so my dog and my pony were really my best friends. So, and then especially when I got pulled out of school in grade 2, that's pretty much like they were my friends.
We took Landon out of school at the direction of two psychiatrists. We did a lot of reading. We took him to the library. We did math and we did workbook activities. He was doing wonderful, yeah. A person like Landon who says things that are inaccurate or not a fact, it might be just how he perceives them to be. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're true, or some of it could be his memory loss and the way he's remembering certain parts of his childhood.
She was always saying that I always had these deficits and always saying that I had a handicap. She would always put it as a handicap, which made me kind of upset about myself. So it came to the point where they would never let me out and just go to the movies with people or do anything. So I came up with my own solution where I'd wait until they go to bed at night and wait till around 1 o'clock, and I'd get a cab into town and sneak out my window. I was grasping that, I would say, friendship, and grasping to be able to go out and explore and be able to get something that I never got.
My name is Tiffany. I've been with Landon since I was 16. He was 19, and we met at a party. And after that, we talked on Facebook, and we went to the movies, and we just started being with each other every day. When I first met him, I didn't really bring him around my friends because he'd say stuff that was out of place. Like, he just really never had people skills when he lived home because he was in his bubble his whole life. Like, he had to learn, like, to talk to people, like to how hold a conversation with people and stuff like that.
I love being with my girlfriend, and I love going to the movies. I was able to apply for social assistance, so that was like a big, huge change to me, just living out on my own.
He just decided that he thought he could be like everyone else and just go live on his own, and that wasn't feasibly possible for him. He didn't have the skills. He wasn't ready.
I got scored the intellectual level. I was 69. Mental retardation, and I hate that word. Of all the assessments I got, it was all on my intellectual level of my IQ. There were no assessments done on mine of what I can do from day to day, from getting up in the morning, from preparing his breakfast, making his bed, or taking his medication.
He was contacting us periodically. We were often going through the streets at night, making sure that he was safe. Oftentimes, we didn't know if he was taking his medication. We were seeing marks on him, bruises, scratches, and at points in times, we'd even seen cigarette burns on him.
The bruises, they were from at times when I used to fool around with my friends, and there was one time when I was out with my buddy and I was drinking a lot, and I fell down and kind of roughed myself up some. And cigarette burns, they're from myself. Actually, I inflicted cigarette burns on myself. So.
How come? Sounds very painful. Why did you do it?
Just other people were doing it, so I did it. And, yeah.
One day, it was 11 o'clock at night. The police showed up and his parents, and they came to the door, and we weren't going to answer the door because we were scared that they were going to try to take him. Landon went, and they said, "You're coming home with us." And Landon's like, "No, I'm not." I said, "I'm staying here with Tiffany."
They wrestled me to the floor and then to the bed, and then my father's helping them, trying to contain me. And then I remember one of the officers holding me up like a half a foot off the floor by my neck, eventually cuffed me.
And they left and they took him, and she was screaming outside, "This is to help you, Landon," and she put him in the back of the cop car.
We didn't have any options. The only option that was really available was the guardianship. You fought all your life to give him as much rights and to have him be like everybody else as much as he can be. It was quite saddening and heart-wrenching for us.
I got served papers for the guardianship order. And then I was like, oh gee, what's this about? I remember going on the bus. I remember crying. I remember thinking, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I was more in shock than anything, really. My motivation was destroyed. I was restricted in all areas.
I felt hopeless and felt really stressed out and depressed. I just needed to drink to try to cope. So I drank and I was drunk for weeks at a time.
We just never knew if we were going to find Larendon in a ditch, somebody had beaten him up, or if we were going to get that knock and call that the parents dread. It was suggested by his psychiatrist. It was a sigh of relief, and we thought it was on to bigger and better things for Landon, and he would finally get the help that he needed.
I've never been in a facility before in my life.